I am Paul Epstein, and this is Win the Day with James Whittaker.
You're listening to Win the Day with James Whittaker.
What we doing live echoes in eternity.
Broadcasting from Los Angeles, California. Here's your host, James Whittaker.
Let's go.
Hey winners, welcome back to Win the Day. The quote for this episode comes from Carmelo Anthony and says, "Every morning you have two choices, continue to sleep with your dreams or wake up and chase them." Paul Epstein has mastered the art of turning high-stakes pressure into unstoppable momentum. After 15 years as a top sports executive, Paul shattered Super Bowl revenue records, opened a billion-dollar stadium, and launched the San Francisco 49ers Talent Academy, earning him the nickname the Y Coach. Today, Paul is a two-time best-selling author, award-winning speaker, and trusted advisor to some of the world's most elite teams and companies, including Amazon, Disney, and NASA. His message: to help people and organizations win Monday. Clearly a message that we can get behind here at the Win the Day show. In this episode, we're going to talk about how to create a team of leaders, not just a leadership team, why playing offense is the key to thriving in a reactive world, how to find clarity at your scariest fork in the road, and the power of turning Monday into momentum. Before we begin, the right bit of inspiration can completely change the trajectory of someone's life. So if there's a friend or loved one out there who needs to hear this episode or could use some help to win the day, share it with them right now. All right, let's win the day with Paul Epstein. Paul, great to see you, mate. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
James, fired up to be here.
Win Monday and win the day together.
I mean, come on, who would have known? It's like we should have known each other our whole life, but here we are,
Exactly.
Better later than never.
The stars have finally aligned. Well, to kick things off, is there a story of struggle or success from when you were younger that helped put you on the path you ultimately went down?
Yeah, I think there's a couple. So you cannot tell by a last name like Epstein, but proud Mexican roots, Mexican descent on my mom's side. And my dad didn't really know his family. So that side of the family tree was just him. And I'll get to my dad in a second because he's my late father. But a lot of my early childhood days, we spent in Ensenada, Mexico, which is, you can see by the way I said Mexico. So I'm proving it. For those people that call BS, I'm like, no, I'll say Mexico. Okay.
My wife's Mexican on her dad's side too. So the moment you hear the accent come out, it's like, oh yeah, that's real. That's legit.
Yeah, nobody says quesadilla. Okay, no. So I was down there and, classic Mexican family. And it was all of our holidays. And so all my childhood memories, like seeing Santa Claus and all of these things. And it was funny because there's this interesting part where my mom was one of 9, but then she had 5 brothers, 4 sisters. And so, for the 5 guys, they would take turns being Santa Claus. And then I would always ask, like, why does Santa Claus change colors every year? And so that was a different childhood memory. But where I'm going with this is you learn a lot about life when values, before you know that they're called values, exist. So here we are in a home. There's no central air, no central heat, and it's Christmas. And so the way you heat the house is you light enough candles, and eventually it will get warmer. And you think about the love and the care and the bear hugs. And sure, I think the tacos and tequila help, but ultimately, I always correlated that you don't need to have things. You don't need to have money in order to smile, in order to be nice, in order to be kind, in order to be happy. And so from those early days where family and the roots and the upbringing were very important to me, and then fast forward, you talk about an early struggle. If 19 years old categorizes as early, that's when I lost my hero. That's when I lost my dad, and I am an only child. So you instantly go from a boy to a man. My mom goes from a parent to a partner, and he was somebody that was always on a mission of impact. I know you're very impact driven. He was a continuation high school teacher. And so again, I've never been raised with a lot of money. I've never had a lot in terms of resources, but I've always had the right people behind me and supporting me and challenging me. And there was a moment, and for those that aren't familiar with what a continuation school is, it's when a kid's been given up on. They go to traditional school time and time again, and they get kicked out for whatever reasons, and they land at a continuation. It's the last stop. And the hope and prayer is that they never go on to become a statistic on the street. But it was that environment that my dad chose because he felt he could have more impact there after teaching in traditional school for decades. So a few years after, I'm a young sports career sales manager at the LA Clippers. We can totally double click on that because there's a lot of stories there to double click on. But I'm in my 20s, and a couple of his former students recognize me as I'm walking in the same neighborhood that my dad once taught at. And they recognized me. Probably I was on the side of the stage when they graduated years before, and they approached me. And one said, "Your dad was the first person that ever believed in me." The other one said, and this one floored me, James. It literally floored me. Your dad gave me a reason to think that tomorrow is worth it. I didn't know. There's literally people around us every day that don't feel that tomorrow is worth it. And I didn't just hear those words. I felt those words. And when you're 20 something and you realize what your hero did and why he did it, and you see and you feel the impact through these beautiful human beings that are vulnerable enough, honest enough, authentic enough to tell you that, it changed the trajectory of the rest of my life. And it's led me to a lot of what I'm doing today, post-sports career. But that early struggle was losing my hero at 19.
I was chatting to someone about this yesterday. When you're in high school, you often remember even just one negative thing that was said to you by a teacher. The responsibility that teachers
100%.
have, of course, just like a positive thing, you might not remember it as much, but you certainly can. In my experience, you remember, I do anyway, I remember the verbatim bad things that were said to me, but for the good things, I just remember the kindness and the willingness of the good teachers to see the potential in me and tease that out.
You know what's really interesting about that? Even let's put a corporate lens on that at work, because I'm doing leadership training and culture training all the time. And let's talk about feedback, because essentially feedback is a form of communication. And there's the affirmative, there's more of the recognition, the good stuff. Here's what I want you to do more of. And then there's the hard stuff, the bad stuff, the honest stuff, the constructive and the developmental, whatever we call feedback in that category. And there's a couple of different points that you just brought up that are very fascinating the more that you research something like feedback. For one, and people always talk about having that challenging conversation, having the difficult conversation. And Paul, my team doesn't think that I respond well. My team doesn't think. And I say, okay, let's deconstruct this. The symptom is you're giving away this feedback and you're telling people to do better, do different, to change something. Talk to me about the relationship. And as soon as I see a blank stare in their face, it immediately tells me, oh, you don't have a relationship. And what's really cool about this is, and we've all been there, if you've worked for enough bosses, you're going to have some amazing bosses, you're going to have some horrible bosses. And literally, you could hear the exact same words, the exact same feedback from both bosses. But one of them had your back, cared about you as a whole person, not just as a cog in a machine. And the other, you never really built that relationship. They tell you the exact same words verbatim. From the first boss, you're going to say, well, that was tough to hear. Thanks for telling me. I might need a day or two to process it, but I'm happy that you went there. And with the second boss, you say, what an asshole. And they said the same words, but the foundation of care and the relationship wasn't there with one versus the other. And then the second piece, I'll be fast on this one, with a positive form of feedback, recognition. There's a formula that I teach. We'll remember this because of the agency, FBI. It's an acronym, FBI, which stands for feelings, behavior, and impact. So anytime that we're delivering positive feedback, we should express how the behavior made us feel, and then the impact of that behavior. So, hey, because you went above and beyond on that client proposal, not only were we able to ink the deal, but it's now turned into some spin referrals. We have new ambassadors in the community, in the marketplace, and all of the positive benefits. The way it made me feel was, I can count on you. I can trust you. I'm so much more invested in who you are because I understand what drives you. 5 years later, that person will not remember the behavior that I recognized. They will not remember the impact of their behavior. They will remember how I made them feel.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's all feeling.
So true. And our mutual friend, Rich Davini, who we were just talking about offline, shout out Rich, great guy, Navy SEAL commander. He, in his work, he talks about this idea that it's not a title that makes someone a leader. There are people he was talking about in the SEAL teams who didn't have the fancy title, but he would follow them to hell. And some of the other people who had the leadership titles, where he's like, I wouldn't follow that person to go and get a cappuccino. And I remember when I was one of my earlier jobs, I was working at a bottle shop, a liquor store, we call it, you call it over here, but a bottle shop in Australia. And I had to go, it was my first day in there, and I had to go and stock all of the beer cartons in the cold room. And I didn't bring, it was my first day, I had no idea. So I didn't bring a jacket or any warm clothes. So it's absolutely freezing in there for hours and hours and hours. And this assistant manager walked in and he goes, James, you want a coffee? And I was like, wow, what a kind man. And I said, yeah, that'd be great. Thanks. And he goes, I'll have mine white with one, and walks out. implying that he wanted me to go and make the coffees for both of us. And I was like, I thought it was a kind gesture, and he was just trying to do something hierarchical, and just, I'll never forget that. I left that day thinking, what an absolute asshole. I will never go out of my way to do anything above and beyond for that guy ever. But there are other people out there that you would give the shirt off your back because they demonstrate through their actions that they're kind, hardworking, decent people that just want to make the world a better place. Leave it better than they found it.
That's it. That's it.
Tell us about this win the day. It's easy to get confused.
Where'd you get win the day from? I mean, come on.
We're going to be in litigation, whatever. Whoever had the trademark first. Win Monday and win the day are deeply aligned, but it can be a little bit confusing to say. So this win Monday philosophy that you have, tell us a bit about what that means in practicality, and who do you want someone to be once they have adopted that mindset?
100%. I think that winning Monday is literally the only decision that somebody needs to make in order to win at the rest of their life. And any growth thereafter, any transformation thereafter, the starting point is winning on Monday. Here's why. What winning Monday means: you take one action on that Monday to make it a winning day. You now have momentum to not just win the next day, but you start to stack some days and you have momentum to win the week. You start to stack weeks, you have momentum to win the month. The momentum continues, you win quarters, and eventually you look back after having your most winning year yet. And it all started because you locked in on one decision, one strategy, one commitment to win Monday. It's that simple. It's that practical, but it's the tactical nature of starting every week off right, shooting out of a cannon with energy, with intention, and feeling like no matter what kind of week you're coming off, it could have been the week from hell. It could have been the middle 80% of weeks, which fall in between, or it could have been the week from heaven. In any given point, Monday is an intentional milestone. If it was the week from hell where everything just went against you, what an amazing opportunity to just flip the page, hit the reset button and say, I can't do anything about last week. We can't even do anything about 5 minutes ago. So you flip the page, you move forward. It's a new day, a new week, new hope, positivity, belief, and energy and optimism going into that Monday. If it falls in the middle 80%, then you probably want to make some 1% tweaks, just kind of growth mindset stuff. And there's a new tool, a new tip, a new tactic, a new strategy. You just make these 1-degree shifts. But then for the week from heaven, where everything happened to go your way, in sports terms, you're on a winning streak. Now it's an accelerator. Now it's like that 10x effect. Now it's a compounding effect of like, this is when you maximize hitting the gas hard because you don't want to waste the momentum from the prior week. So that's kind of that bullseye laser focus on Monday. And the way that I envision this happening, of course, it starts at an individual level, but it's one of those things where it becomes infectious. It becomes infectious at a team level, at a culture level, at a company level. And so if you're out there and you're listening to the conversation and saying, I would love for my team, my company, to have more of a growth trajectory, to have what I call championship habits, the habits of winners, that people that win consistently, they do what others won't. That's one of the biggest things that I learned from being around the athletes. Yes, I was on the business side of the NFL and NBA, but you build relationships off the field and off the court. And what I always realized from those that separated from the pack, and keep in mind, in the NFL and NBA, top 0.01% in the world at what they do. No shortage of performance, achievement, success, all of that. The most gifted and talented people in the world at their craft, in this case, pro basketball, pro football. But there were still two groups of players. Those that in the biggest games and the biggest moments, they always seem to rise to the occasion. And then there's others that consistently fell flat. The gap was never gifts, talents, abilities, or skills. It was this inner sense of confidence, this sense of unshakable confidence versus what I call blue skies confidence. Blue skies confidence is when everything is going your way. It's when you have a lesser opponent. It's when it's a perfect and ripe economy. It's when there's no threats. But then the unshakable confidence realizes that confidence lies within. And that's the confidence that fuels what I have seen from the highest performers and achievers in the world, from sports to business. So getting back to somebody that's listening in on this, you think about growth, you think about championship habits. The standard of excellence that all champions have is they are willing to do what others won't. And that is something that when you think about Monday, a fun, quick story for you here. So I've got 2 young kids, a 4 and a 1-year-old. So our 4-year-old actually knows what the heck is going on now. He's obsessed with Mickey Mouse. So I find a lot of speakers, keynote speaking is my obviously top thing that I do. And so you go to Orlando a lot. There just happens to be a lot, whether you love Orlando or you feel the opposite, you're going to end up in Orlando if you're a keynote speaker. It's non-negotiable. So if you don't have kids, you're like, okay. But if you have kids, you're like, oh, this could be a fun week excursion. So here we are in the happiest place in the world, in Disneyland. And so we're getting off the dinosaur ride. It's me and my kiddo. His name's PJ, my 4-year-old. And we're getting off the dinosaur ride. And, you know, they strategically funnel you through the gift shop. So now we're in the dinosaur gift shop. And immediately something on the wall caught my eye. There was a t-shirt with a dinosaur. If I could paint a picture for you, he clearly has fallen over and his head falls on a rock. So imagine a dinosaur that looks like it's on its way downward and essentially head flat with his head hitting a rock, a miserable looking dinosaur. And right under it, it says Mondays. Mondays. Most of the world, if you ask, what's your least favorite day of the week? What's the day of the week that you least look forward to?
Monday-itis, like, yeah.
I mean, half of the world hates the second half of Sunday because the way they feel about Monday. So it's a beautiful opportunity. And the metaphor is going back to the championship spirit of do what others won't. If you think about your competition, if you think about other people, they're going to waste more Mondays because of their mindset and their attitude about Mondays. What's possible if at the end of this year, while everybody else wastes Monday, you deciding, you choosing, you commit to win Monday? That's the law of separators. That's separation season. That is you doing what other people simply will not. And that's a principle of winning Monday. And then I think the inherent thing here is, and look, I could tell instantly, not just from watching your show, and I'm a big fan and I love countless folks that you've already had on well before me, but I could tell in 5 minutes of a pre-chat before we hopped on, you love what you do. You don't have to tell me that. I feel it. I see it. I sense it. And so you're not afraid of Monday. You're attacking Monday. Yes, win the day. I know you want to win every day. And so do I. My whole point is it starts on Monday, but we're cut from the same cloth. And sadly, too many people in the world, they lose the game of time. If you think about your life in a pie chart, and if time is what we're measuring in this pie chart, there's 3 slices. There's work, there's sleep, and there's everything else. And they go in that order. You will work more hours than you sleep. You will work more hours than you do everything else. So that's bucket 1. Bucket 2 is sleep, which you won't even remember. Bucket 3 is everything else. The family, the friends, the Mai Tais, Hawaii, like all this stuff that we say is the most important, but then we neglect the importance of how we feel about the first slice, the first bucket. I'll take it even back. Even if you don't love what you do, but if you enjoy it, if you enjoy the people you do with, if it gives you even a small sense of purpose, if you feel like it makes a difference, you can make a little bit of an impact. You're contributing, you're helping people. It can be as small as you want to make it. For me, yes, I found a passion and a purpose and a calling, which to 95% of the world sounds crazy. And that's okay. I'm talking about folks that just say, I'm not dreading Monday. I look forward to it. So Win Monday also, it's a positive lens on the most valuable slice of pie, which is where you're going to spend the most of your life in this place called work. And if you crush it in this first piece, you're not going to remember the second piece of sleep. Now you're going to be happier and more fulfilled and more energized in the bucket that you're ultimately going to remember, which is if you have kids, if you have a spouse, if you have a partner, if you have hobbies and interests and things that bring you maximum joy and fulfillment, that's the real juice of life. But my belief is you can't fully maximize that third piece unless the first one is not that dinosaur's head hitting the rock. Stop wasting Mondays and start winning them.
Yeah, I love that. I agree 100%. How do you approach it, given that we both have win in our taglines? I can see how people who are in the world of sports where winning is everything, I can see it for salespeople and founders and CEOs being like, yes, win, win, win. What if you're dealing with a company where you have people who they don't care as much about the job? Maybe they're so burnt out at home because they've got young kids. Like I got a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old. So
there you go.
We're both in the thick of it.
You're in the hustle.
Yeah, exactly. Where it almost feels like to give to work, you take away from home and vice versa. So the thought of winning more aggressively, it just seemed too much for them to be able to handle at the moment. So how do you approach that whole idea of winning with that crew?
Couple thoughts. Winning is holistic. Winning is not work. Winning is not your career. It's not winning as a leader. It's not just winning as a team. It's not just winning as a company. It's not just winning in profits. Yes, I love all of those wins. Believe me, every single one that I just rattled off. And there are countless more that are work related. But that's not the entire game. The game is life. And a part of your life, go back to what I just said about the time pie. Your life, ignore sleep. Let's focus on work and the bucket called everything else. The fallacy that we've created in the world is this theory of work-life balance. I've already expressed why it's BS. The first piece of pie and the second piece of pie, A, the first piece is much bigger, and B, there's 20 things in that third piece versus there's one thing in the first. So exponentially, it's just a mismatch. You're never going to quantify a balance in your life. 8 hours at work is not 8 hours away with friends, family, loved ones, etc. So if that's the case, and I'm not the first person to say this, whether you go down the rabbit hole of work-life integration, work-life harmony, here's what it means. Maybe you have the freedom and the opportunity to be able to go watch your daughter's recital at 3 p.m., which a lot of folks would not have that freedom. But let's say that you can make that intentional choice to go do that. But there's a trade-off because you weren't grinding until 5 or 6 p.m. You were out there in the auditorium. So the trade-off is now you got to plug in at 9 p.m. Now you got to plug back in at 10 p.m. and maybe you're working till 11 p.m., but you made that choice with intention, with love. There's an intention in the sacrifice. There's an intention in the trade-off. And here's how I think about work-life harmony and integration. Take what I do. I am invested at a soul level in the impact of my work. And I love it. Is my drug of choice is going out and speaking all around the world. That is my drug of choice. I never want to give up that drug. I'm addicted to it in a healthy way because I see the impact and I do the bear hugs as soon as I'm off stage. And it reminds me of my dad. It reminds me of my why. It reminds me of my hero. And that's why it's an addiction. I can't stop because I see the impact on the other side. So I love the plane. I'm typically traveling to go do this. I love the plane to go fulfill my impact in the world. And I love the plane to come home. So my personal definition of happiness and fulfillment is love both planes. When you love both planes, it's a full life. It's a whole life. It's a beautiful life. That is a winning life. Now, somebody might not need to hop on a plane. For a remote worker, your plane might be a walk down the hallway. Cool. You do you. It's more about enjoy where you're going to spend the majority of your time when you're not with your loved ones. Enjoy this thing called work. That's a big win. And then build a life outside of work that you also want to go play offense and attack. And like, you really just want to maximize that amount of love. Because until I loved both planes, and there was a point in my sports journey where for a while, I did love both directions. And then one became a like. And I'm sure we're going to unpack some of this. But when you have a love and a like, and it feels like it's good enough, and it is, until it's not. And then I was able to zoom out. I had some personal transformations and reflections that really altered the way that I think about this game of life and winning the holistic game of life. So that would be my encouragement to everybody is however you need to adapt my version of love both planes, make that statement work in your life. And that's how you know you're winning across the board. Yeah, the way that I think about daily success is total output in the areas that matter most to you. That's it. Like every day, you've just got to get clear on what matters most to me and what are what are the actions that I can take today? They're going to help me have output high in those areas. Maybe it's family. Maybe it's one thing for career. Maybe it's one thing for mental health or physical health. Yep. Yeah, I love it. Is there an enduring lesson from your dad that you think about a lot today? Life is just so much bigger than you. It really is. I shared the story earlier of what is two former students said to me. And I think the biggest lesson is this, and I'll tie it to what I do, but more importantly, how it serves other people. So when you're a speaker, your number one fear, and really it's one of my pet peeves, and I take this learning not from being a speaker, but from being an audience member. And maybe you've been here too, James. Have you ever gone to an event or experienced something that you leave so positive, so energized, so motivated, so fired up, like, oh, the future is bright. And then the next Monday hits and you're back to your inbox and you're back to putting out fires, and there's boss and there's clients and there's team, and oh, at home there could be kids and spouse, and you get back in the rhythm, you get back in the routine, you get back in the grind, you get back in the hustle. TikTok, 1 or 2 weeks go by and you reflect back on that once inspiring event and poof, it's a sugar high.
And familiarity breeds contempt as well. So even just going back to the place that you spend every single day, it might be the most inspiring workplace in the world, but eventually it's going to become too familiar. You're going to be too comfortable. I actually have a thing of when I attend events or I'm speaking at events, whenever I'm speaking at events too, I love sitting in the audience and watching the other speakers.
Yeah.
I love learning from as many people as I can. I get to work on that action plan. I take all of my notes, put it into an action plan immediately, and then I block out time to be able to do that, because I noticed I would have pages and pages of notes. And as you said, things, day rolls around, you might have a sick kid or whatever.
100%.
And it's like, yeah, I had a big thing written down. It might have meant the world to you. You're like, of course I commit 100% to doing this. Even following up with people who could help connect you with a dream goal that you have, and you let it slip through your fingers because you didn't take action. So behind me, when I work, I actually have a big canvas print that says action, the difference between having and wanting. And I think about that all the time. Yeah.
I love that. And my favorite people in the world, they're the ones that meet at the intersection of ambition and action. So it's great to have hopes and dreams and think a big game. But unless you do the action, it just doesn't matter. It just doesn't count. Like, I'm 100% an action guy. So getting back to this sugar high, what the opposite of a sugar high is, it's winning on Monday. And what I have realized, whether it's win the day, which I love, and I also love Win Monday. I love both, all right? I sound like a politician. I love everybody, yeah? So what I really love, though, is, of course, the simplicity of Win the Day. I love the simplicity of Win Monday. But I also am not naive enough to think that just because I tell folks at the end of a speech or 10 times throughout a speech, here's one thing I want you to do on Monday. Here's one action I want you to take on Monday morning. Here's how I want you to show up better and different, and they're going to have the best of intentions. But then maybe they do have a sick kid on Monday and all things are derailed. And that inspirational speaker from the week before, James or Paul, it can become a sugar high. We can. And so here's how I caution folks against it. And this is one insight I got in memory and in spirit of my father. The external dedication to your hero or to the person that matters to you the most, whether living or in memory, if you can dedicate your win of the day, if you can dedicate the goal that you're most seeking, if you can dedicate whatever it is that you want in business or life, you dedicate it to your hero. Here's one thing I know to be true. We will let ourselves down before we let the most important person in our life down. So for me, in the closing minutes of my keynote, I talk about what my dad did, why he did it, how he will forever have a place in my heart and soul. And now I want to pay it forward. And I ask my audience, who's your hero? Who's that person that you would do anything for? Literally walk to the end of the earth and back. And everybody, whether living or in memory, they have that person. And I say, do me a favor, do each other a favor, do yourselves a favor. Don't take action and don't win Monday for Paul. Don't even do it for the person to your left and right, while they do matter. Don't even do it for yourself. Do it for your hero, because you will never let your hero down. And I see the head nods, the visceral reaction to, I am not letting my hero, like the head nods. And what it means to me too, James, is this. I used to think that winning was about trophies and success and accolades, and the trophy cabinet, it was full. It still is full, but they now actually mean something to me. And the reason is, like, if you were to ask me to evaluate a speech before I had this external dedication to my dad and my hero, I would have, for one, I would have beat myself up for the one thing I could have, should have, would have said. We've all been there, kind of that perfectionist piece. And like, you just fall into a trap of like, it was good, it was fine, but I would be focused on me. And now I think about it in a very different lens. Hey, Paul, was it a great speech? Hey, Dad, was it a great speech? Did I make my hero proud? And if I did, then the answer is hell yes. Hell yes, it was a great speech because I made my hero proud. When you simplify life to making your hero proud, you literally can't lose.
It's a great reframe. Conor McGregor has a quote, reminds me of that. He talks about your lack of commitment is an insult to the people who believe in you. I think that's so good. Your lack of commitment is an insult to the people who believe in you. So what drives me is, I was lucky enough to have two amazing parents who gave me every opportunity. And I see there are so many, I've been involved in mentoring and helping so many people over the years. And the reason I do what I do is because I've seen people who have not had an upbringing like that. So every day I'm trying to first of all, prove to my parents that they have done an amazing job through the impact that they are having through the people that I've been able to help, and to also give a leg up and assistance to people who are not in a position to benefit from having parents who could teach them values or guide them on the right path when you reach a fairly critical crossroads in life.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Conor McGregor, I'm going to have to look that up. That's a new one for me.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful reframe. I agree. I think taking it off, and you just don't want to let those people down. And again, it could be, in my case, dad. Now I pay it forward in kids. And, like I also have a thing, and not everybody's going to have kids that's listening and watching, but regardless, like there are important people in your life. And I always think, what if one day my little guys thought of their dad as their hero? And that's a really tall standard. It's a really big statement. And I realize that I got to earn that. I got to earn that by the way that I show up every day. And that holds me accountable to being my best self when I don't feel like it, when it's not convenient, when it might go against some goals or objectives or business. You know what? I'm just trying to do the best I can every day. I'm trying to win every day, whatever that means. And it's very muddy and sloppy and messy. And I'm just as human as everybody else. But I've realized that the more that I do things to make those around me proud versus for myself, eventually those self trophies become hollow.
It's a daily recommitment, isn't it? It's like
100%.
Resilience too. It's not something that, hey, I click my fingers and I have that forever. It's a daily recommitment.
I mean, daily, I would even argue it's the moments.
Yeah.
You might have a horrible morning. You might have done something absolutely stupid in the morning or regret something that you did at 10 a.m. The day's not done. The day's not done. So do you have the presence and the awareness to take a step back or zoom out and say, okay, I got to do better. And if not for you, if not for your boss, if not for your team, if not for do it for your hero. Do it for that hero. That hero is never going to be a losing strategy. So that's one thing I'm going to continue to pound the pavement on.
So good. I see it in my 6-year-old daughter's eyes. I am a hero. And the other day, we had a sick child. Her younger brother was not having a good week, and my wife was away for a work trip, and I had I've been having some horrible sleep because I've been up with our son, and then have a lot of work commitments as well. And there was something in that morning routine where it's always a battle. If both the kids are awake, we're trying to get my daughter off to school. There's a lot going on. We're struggling a little bit. We're not at our best. Let's say that in the first thing in the morning. Yeah, and something happened, and I raised my voice over something that I didn't have full perspective on. One of the kids had spilt this yogurt bowl that I made, and I could see the look in her eyes, and oh my God, your instinct is to feel that frustration and lean into that rage. Of course I was right. And when you see that look in their eyes that you have let your hero down, take a few deep breaths and just apologize, say, sorry, I'm tired, we'll make it up, we're going to have a fun day together. Like, as you said, I love that idea that the day is not done. You can always do something to improve it.
100%.
Yeah.
We'll be back with the show shortly. I've got a quick question for you. Are you living up to your potential? It's a question that shapes your family, your business, and your overall happiness every single day. That's why I'm excited to introduce the Win the Day quiz. Head over to winthedayquiz.com right now, answer a few thought-provoking questions, and you'll instantly discover how well you're performing relative to your true potential. And here's the exciting part for our Win the Day family. As a fan of the show, you'll receive a personalized and absolutely free action plan to help you win the day every day. Now, just imagine how transformational the results will be when you consistently show up as the best version of yourself in every aspect of your life. Don't miss out. Take the Win the Day quiz now by visiting winthedayquiz.com or click the link in the show notes. All right, let's get back to the show.
The old saying is that the best daily routine starts the night before. So for people who are winning Monday, does it start on Sunday, or what do you think?
One of my former bosses that I love dearly, he's also a dear friend. His name is Brian LaFamina. He recently, so here we are in Los Angeles, he was chief business officer for the LA 2028 Olympics that are upcoming. But he was my boss at the NFL League office on our path to breaking some all-time Super Bowl revenue records. It was the first time the Super Bowl was out there in New York. And I had him on my podcast, on my show, Win Monday. Shocker on the title, of course, right? So I always close out, and I know you've got your round. What do you at the end?
The rocket round.
Rocket round. Yes, I don't have a rocket round. I'm not as cool as James. What I do have is that final question, and it's not a shock. It's, hey, if you could leave us with one thing, what's one thing that we need to do to win Monday, right? And immediately I saw this fire in his eyes. He's a very fiery Northeastern dude, like just totally. And I could tell you a story about magic beans if you're interested in it a bit, but that's a whole Brian story. So he says, winning Monday starts Sunday. And what's really interesting, James, is I'd love to sit here as the teacher and say, here's exactly what you need to do to win Monday. And trust me, I've got hundreds of thoughts and ideas, and I'll simplify it down and just say, just take one action on a Monday to make it a winning day. That's my simple version. And I understand that it does start the day or the night before. It does start on Sunday. However, I didn't always do that. And my life was still pretty good, and the wins were still there. And so it's not that it's impossible. But ever since I started the evening before routine, and it's not just Sunday, I have an evening practice that I do every day. So from Sunday evening through Thursday evening, I give myself a little, while I do work weekends, I give my processes and brain a little bit of a break on the weekends. And so Sunday through Thursday evenings, I have a very intentional process that I do the night before. And ever since I did it, and I'm happy to unpack the details if you'd like. But ever since I did it, I just got so much more clear, so much more intentional. And what it really did for me is it allowed me to start my day and have the most winning elements of my day fully in my control. Literally, by the time that my kids wake up, I've created a process that starts the night before where I can guarantee myself that I have executed on my critical, most winning, impact-driven activities before anybody else gets up.
If your kids wake up and you're still asleep, it is just the worst start to the day, isn't it? You've got to get dialed in before that.
Thankfully, at home, I don't know if I will ever experience that. I will say this, when we travel sometimes, even then, even though, hey, you're not on the grind, you're not on the hustle, you might be going to Disneyland that day, and here we are at a Disney hotel. I still don't like that feeling because there's a part of ownership. And I know, look, I'm preaching as a morning guy. Not everybody's a morning person. I can respect that, and you do you. And if you're a night person, my wife's a night person. She thinks I'm crazy, and I do my 4 a.m. thing, and she's like, you're nuts. And regardless, though, there's a massive amount of, you've got to own some part of your day. And I'll tell you what you're never going to own is the middle part. This whole 9 to 5 thing, whether it's a metaphor or the real hours that you're never going to own that. That's going to be a lot of other people's agendas, a lot of distraction, a lot of interruption. There's going to be this fight for focus that's always going to be just out of your grasp. And so maybe you can own your evening, and God bless you if that's how you're wired. I don't know. I'm a very biased person to say, own your morning and you own your life. You literally start the day and you can accomplish your most winning actions, your most winning activities, and they can vary. It doesn't all need to be about work. It can be around your health. It can be about your mindset. It can be around learning and growth. You can listen to a new episode of Win the Day every single morning. If that's what you want to do, if that's what gives you your fuel and oxygen for the day, then that's how you're going to win more days because you chose it and you own the decision to say, I'm going to listen, I'm going to watch Win the Day, every morning. So that's just a small practice. And I think too many people take that for granted. And, the reality is it's a hard message to listen to because on one side, here's Paul and James, more Paul right now, saying, own your morning. And it's all do something the night before. And then on the flip side, your next guest might say, how important sleep is.
And shout out to Dr. Michael Bruce, a sleep doctor we've had on 3 times.
And I respect it all. Yeah. Whether I do it or not, I still own my choices. I understand how important sleep is. I understand 8 hours is better than 6. But in order to own the parts of my day that allow me to have a holistic winning life, there are trade-offs. Sleeping more, there's a trade-off. Sleeping less, there's a trade-off. Choose your trade-off. Are you choosing with intention? The mistake is not making a choice with intention more than 8 versus 6. We can debate that till the cows come home. But what I want to say is winning the day will not happen by accident. Winning Monday is intentional. And that's the point.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to share a couple of things that I talk about. I just like your perspective on that, and then I want to hear about the most essential parts of your daily routine.
Right.
So for me, what I think about is each day, you must make the decision to win, or you've automatically made the decision to lose. That's it. You lose the day by default. Mm-hmm. So if you want to win the day, it's an intention. You have to make that decision every single morning. I can't make it today for tomorrow. Obviously, you can do things in terms of preparing, so it's a bit of a less lift, less friction points in the way. But essentially, when you wake up in the morning and your eyes open, because I'm not a morning person, which is pretty surprising to a lot of people when they hear about Win the Day. Yeah. I need a process to get my butt out of bed and allow me to show up the way I want to show up for the people who depend on me. So that's doing something. So first of all, let's make the decision to win, acknowledging that the day is there to be won or lost. You must make that decision to win. Second is doing something difficult. I call that the sacrifice phase. For me, it's a cold shower. I don't do it for all of the Andrew Huberman style benefits and all of that. I'm not geeking out too much. I love all that, but I don't geek out too much. I do it because it shocks me into an energetic state and gives me sustained productivity for the entire day. I don't care about anything else. That is why I do that. And then I get a coffee about 90 minutes after waking up. I sit in the sunshine in my backyard and I do a journal where I look at how my energy was being allocated on that exact same day for the previous 4 years, because I've got that captured in a journal app that I use, which is great. And I'm a writer by trade, so I just writing is something that I love to do. And then I write down what is like a recap of, what's sort of unique about the last 24 hours where my energy was being allocated. Then I write down one thing I'm feeling grateful for, not thinking, what am I feeling grateful for? And then I write down 3 things that would make today a win. And when I do that and those 3 things, as you know, they nag away at you until you get them done.
100%.
And on Monday, I have something, I've never shared this on the show before, but I have a slightly different template where it adds in something called the weekly moonshot, where I add 1 or 2 things that I want to accomplish that week, or that I will accomplish that week. And then on Friday, I have a slightly altered template where I then check in. I copy and paste what those weekly moonshot goals are, because it's still Friday morning, meaning I have a full day left in the week to be able to tick off the things on that list. So that's the way. And once I go through that process, it doesn't matter what happened yesterday. It doesn't matter how I'm feeling. I have a process, and then all I need is a 3-hour block of work, uninterrupted. And that's why I don't usually schedule podcasts or anything, whether I'm hosting or whether I'm a guest. I don't want to see or hear from anybody until about 1 p.m. I've got all that stuff ticked out. And I feel like, I know you talk about this with an early start as well. I feel like no matter what happens after that, I've won the day. Everything's amazing, and I'm so much better for it.
I love all of that. I want to ask you a question, being the Monday guy. I love your concept of a weekly moonshot. Would you mind sharing? If I'm listening and watching this, I'm fascinated by that. And look, I struggle with this too. What's too big for a week? And what's two? So could you give an example or two of some moonshots that you've set the course, and maybe one you achieved and maybe one you missed? But at the end of the day, like, what's the level? Like, if 10 is like, dude, it's climbing Mount Everest, and one is like, tie your shoes. I'm curious, like, kind of how you set your moonshots. That's really fascinating to me.
Absolutely. It's a great question. So when I'm talking about moonshot goals, I'm not talking about like an example of what would not fit in there is anything related to the podcast. The podcast, it doesn't matter how much energy I have. I can get on here. I can get it done. All of the work, there's a lot of work behind the scenes. There's a team of people that take care of a lot of things. All of that stuff can be done on autopilot. So I can do that at 8 p.m. till 11 p.m. when the kids are asleep. It's a low lift energetically. It's not high creative work. So an example of something that also would be too big for the weekly moonshot would be something like writing a book. It's too big.
Of course.
But it's like, cool, I can write 500 words a day. So at the end of the week, I've got 2,500 words that are there ready to go. And inevitably what you write or what you have written is already better than what you think it was. You might leave that writing session being like, oh, wow, that was horrible, or wow, that wasn't the best that I could have done. But inevitably when you look at it, you're like, wow, it's actually pretty good. And it's so much easier to tweak it and edit it. So an example of something that I'm working on at the moment is this Win the Day app. It's a leadership development program for the corporate world. So a lot of the weekly moonshot goals that I have now are related to that. It might be get feedback from 5 people related to that concept. That's an example of something that I would put in a weekly moonshot goal.
I love it. Okay, that great description aligns perfectly with the way that I see it. Interesting, you're catching me at a point as we're having this conversation where I'm in the early stages of writing. I can call it a book. It's more of a workbook because I've realized Win Monday is so sticky and memorable. And, it's funny, you see me wearing the shirt now. And for those watching on YouTube, you see the shirt. So on 1 out of 7 days, people are like, that's awesome. And then the other 6 are like, what's up? I can't win Wednesday.
Did I catch you on Thursday? It's like, hey, it's really awkward on Thursday.
Even when we gave the bro hug outside, it's like, hey, like, let's just call this Monday, even though it's a Friday. And so we're all, but I know it's sticky. The $1 million question is, how do I win Monday? And I know we're going to start to unpack some tactics, but knowing that, I didn't feel like Win Monday was a book. I felt like the workbook where each individual, I won't even call it them readers, the users. I care about the utility of the book, the use of the book. It's like, let's put pen to paper. Let's have the conversation with a partner or with a team member. Let's journal the things by ourselves, whatever it is. Regardless, the workbook is called Win Monday, Win the Year. And so it's designed to be these 52 plays, these 52 championship habits that all can be executed within a week. Some in the moment, some might take a Monday action with a Friday reflection. We're going to spice it up. We're going to vary it. But regardless, that's where my question kind of was sourced from too, is I've always been curious how folks think of what they can accomplish in a week. But your writing example of, well, you can't write a book in a week, but if I could do 500 words, multiply that by 5, all right, 2,500. And like, that's realistic and it's aggressive enough that you can move the needle massive if, the compounding effect. Winning the day is a horrible strategy if you just win one day. Winning Monday is a horrible strategy if you just win one Monday.
It's like, I'm done. I'm done.
I'm done. I've made it. I won a day. Yeah. No, it's the stacking and compounding effect. The same way that money has a compounding effect, wins have a compounding effect. It's a stacking effect. And that's where the habits come from. Winning the day can be a habit. Winning Monday can be a habit. And that's what excites me, is when you get folks that are so locked in and it's automatic. I'm going to win the day. I'm going to win Monday. Those are my favorite people in the world. They just have a better energy, a better spirit, a better attitude. And yes, the results and the outcomes come. And so they're more successful, and regardless, they're just better people to be around, because even when things are hard, even when something horrible happened, they stay in this place of neutrality and equilibrium, and they just say, okay, what did I learn from this? How can I grow from this? How can I move forward from it? And if they are winning, then they want to bring you along with them. Favorite people in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. The people who just want to know what you're up to and how they can help.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
So your daily routine, what are the most essential parts of your daily routine? And then maybe we can talk about some specific tips that you have for people out there who want to win their Monday.
Absolutely. Well, let's go back to what my old boss, Brian, said when we were at the NFL League office, and he was on the podcast, and he said, Winning Monday starts Sunday. And I agree, it starts the night before. And I apply this, as I mentioned, on a handful of days, so 5 out of the 7 evenings. Here's exactly what I do. I try to, and my rules are simple. I try to make it something that I can do in a short amount of time. Again, I say this as a hectic father, as a spouse. It's sometimes the only quality conversation I can have with my wife is after they go to sleep. And even then, I'm so tired because I got to wake up at 3 or 4 a.m. So I got a short window, man.
It's a miracle that you and I have the energy to do a podcast like this.
I don't know how we do it. It's superhuman stuff. Now, so what I do is I say, look, it's got to be executable within a couple of minutes. And I also want it to give me visibility into the most important things in my business and in my life. And so I track simple things like revenue and where I'm at and pacing. And by this, I could say, like, hypothetically, $1 million goal, 600,000 achieved, 34 events, goal of 50 events, like simple stuff that I'm like, got it. I can have a dashboard that gives me 10 layers deep. I'm not interested in that. I just want to know, partially it's dopamine when there's wins. I want to feel the rush of that win. I want to be reminded. Part of it is keeping yourself honest. Part of it is, hey, I got to get off my ass a little bit and I got some work to do because we've fallen behind. And like, that's okay. All of those. But that's not really the important part of my night before. That's just the business snapshot. And I do that as an entrepreneur. I think you owe it to your family. You owe it to yourself because your business is your baby when you're an entrepreneur. If I had a day job and I was still chief sales officer for the 49ers, would I write that in my nightly journal? To be honest, maybe not. Just being completely transparent. I don't know. But as an entrepreneur, it's a mistake. I have taken my eye off that prize and it's gotten us in some pretty funky times in terms of where we are and some financial scare and some things. And I own that. So I said, I need this journal to keep me accountable for my family. Number 2, we didn't know each other 2.5 years ago, James, but I've lost about 20, 25 pounds. So I've gone through a nice little health transformation here. So I put what I weigh every single day. And I weigh myself first thing in the morning, not because of the number, just to know that I'm maintaining. I'm not trying to go down anymore. I just don't want to go back to where I was because sports analogy number 84 of this conversation, when people feel good, they play good. When people feel good, they play good. My business has taken off since I got healthy. My marriage is healthier. I feel like a better dad. Everything, the wins have become more in abundance because I started to take care of myself in a way, from eating to doing less of other things and all of that. Okay, now into the 3 activities. And very important, remember the dedicated to your hero. So if top left of my 1-page evening journal is the business snapshot, top right is how many pounds I weigh. Then under that, this year, I have 2 words, dad and growth. Dad is permanent. I will write dad as my hero every day for the rest of my life in my journal because I want to make my hero proud. So you can fill in the blank with whatever that means to you. Growth that's my word for the year. Again, I'm not the first person to ever say choose a word for the year. Last year it was momentum. We crushed momentum last year. This year's growth. We're crushing growth this year. It's not an accident. Next year I'm going to come up with a new word. I don't know what it is yet, and that's okay. So dad and growth. And then under that, I write 3 things that I'm going to do before everybody gets up. Because to me, I've already won the day if I can do these 3 things. And I only have one rule. The first 2 can be business, they can be tasks, they can be certain things that they have to be able to move the needle. Like it's something that I know this is not just a 1%er. This is a step toward a 40%er. And so, because I don't know if you're like this, James, but I have what I call shiny squirrel syndrome. Squirrel. So I suffer from that. And probably there's a lot of folks like nodding their heads right now, like me too. So I suffer from shiny squirrels. And so what I do is I make sure that number 1 and 2, they have to be needle movers. They have to be game changers because otherwise I'm just chasing too many squirrels. So they keep me focused on the essential. And then my third one, I call it an impact seed. I'm planting a seed of impact. And especially if it's 4 a.m, that may be too early to execute on it in the moment, but I keep myself accountable to planting that seed during the day. Who is one person that I can connect with today that It's purely for impact. It's to make a positive difference. It could be a virtual coffee check-in. It could be checking on their kids. It could be, I spoke to them 9 months ago and we promised each other a more substantive relationship. And so I just want to reconnect with them. But there is impact on the other side of this touch point. And so I'm going to make sure that I plant one impact seed a day. So in review, top left, business snapshot, top right, pounds. Then dad and growth. One is my hero. One is my word for the year. 3 things that if I do, I will have already won the day. And without fail, I do all 3 in the day. And ideally, I do them before anybody gets up.
It's a great start. So my one rule on the 3 things that you write down for the day is to make sure they're never related to each other. I like the idea of having, like one for work, one for family. Sometimes I even, with the chaos of having young kids, it could just be relax and enjoy. Like if you're on solo parenting duty, just relax and enjoy. It's been a nice reminder when it's easy to get, at the end of the week when you're trying to squeeze out every single minute and then you see your kids, they're exhausted and you're exhausted and it can be the perfect storm sometimes.
Hardest leadership job in the world, parenting.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the business thing kind of comes easy after you. Let me know if you ever master this, James. I'm happy to read the book. I'm in the process. I got a cool gift recently of The Daily Dad. Yeah, that's been a good one with Ryan Holiday, and just obviously I love his books in general. I mean, Obstacle is the Way was my personal favorite, even though Daily Stoic, all that. But The Daily Dad has been a good one just to kind of keep you grounded. And it's funny because I read, it's only 1 page a day. It's, if it's June 10th, read the June 10th page. It's simple. It takes you a minute. But I like reading it in my workplace because I'm about to attack work. And notice I used the word attack. And like, that's just kind of the way that I talk and the way I'm wired. It's like play offense. Like you go attack what you want. But I love that I get to focus even for just 1 minute on what matters most. But I wouldn't want to read The Daily Dad in a chair by my swimming pool. Like, no. I'm going to read it where I grind and where I hustle. Because when you say work-life harmony and integration, you need to memorialize that. Like you need to be intentional with your environment. How do you set yourself up? Where do you work? And people underestimate the power of environment. And I'm very intentional. Like, where do I journal? Where do I like to write? Where do I read that 1 page that makes me focus on being a better human being, being a better dad? Like, don't leave that to chance. Don't be random. Be intentional. And that's worked for me because it's kind of this yin and yang that's allowed me. It forces me daily to say winning is holistic. And my environment reminds me, because otherwise my behaviors and actions could get away from me. I know which way I'll gravitate toward if you lead me to my own druthers. So I would just encourage everybody, be very intentional with your environment.
Yeah, it's like consume for growth. Everything you're consuming, you can then make sure you've got a healthy outlet to be able to leverage it.
100%.
Yeah, so good. You mentioned earlier, like and love. I think that's such a great perspective. For someone who's at a crossroads in their life, maybe it's relationship, career, a mindset, how should they approach making the right decision in that moment?
All right. Well, you're talking to somebody that has written a book called Better Decisions Faster. So it sounds like we got to talk about a decision here. So let me unpack a masterclass on 60 seconds on how to approach decisions where you might be stuck, you might be challenged by it. Maybe you don't quite know what to do next. So again, sports analogy, now we're up to number 85. In sports, there's the acronym MVP, which stands for Most Valuable Player. I would use this for your MVDs, your most valuable decisions, the ones that have stakes, they have consequence, they mean more, they matter more, they've got more value. So you mentioned a career, that or a relationship, massive decisions. How do we approach it? Head, heart, hands. Think of your head as your mindset. Heart is your authenticity, and hands are action. And they're not separate. They're all connected through an equation. Head plus heart equals hands. So in other words, when deciding whether to use hands, whether to take action, 2 checkpoints, head and heart. Head, do I think it's a good idea? Heart, do I feel it's a good idea? And just like when we're driving a car, you pull up to an intersection, you know exactly what to do. Green is go, red is stop, yellow is assess. And that's exactly how the equation works. So for those listening and watching, if you're challenged or stuck on a decision about relationship or career or something work, whatever it is, you're stuck, then you apply the head, heart, hands equation. And remember the green, yellow, red. If your head and heart are both on board, green freaking light. 10 out of 10 times, you take that action. The opposite, no head, no heart, red light. Don't do it or stop doing it. And the messy middle is yellow, when either your head or your heart is on board. And there's a whole new masterclass and maybe even a cocktail that we need when you're struggling through the messy middle. But that's what I would encourage folks to do, whether you're deciding whether to be with this person, whether to stay at this company, whether to pursue a new career path, whether to become an entrepreneur, whether to make that investment that could have a ripple effect on your family, like green, yellow, red. Check in with your head, check in with your heart, and that will inform what you do with your hands.
How do you handle bad days when they happen?
Bad days. Yeah, we have them all the time. I think there's a very powerful thought that yesterday is done and yesterday is gone. Sports metaphor number 86. Now I'm keeping count. This is dangerous. Winning streaks and losing streaks. You hear that all the time in sports. I refuse to have losing streaks. We all lose games. And sometimes a game is a day. Sometimes it can be longer. Sometimes it can be really long, like a pandemic. That's a freaking loss, okay? I work in the live events and human gathering business as a speaker. Yeah, we had about 18 really crappy months there for a while where we weren't in a position to do our mission. That was a long loss, but there was still light in that loss. And so in a more normal, non-pandemic, day-to-day element, I think you just have to realize that you have a choice on the next day. I learned this at the LA Clippers. So this is a couple decades ago. Kobe and Shaq are busy winning championships across the hallway with the LA Lakers. And I still remember as a proud born and raised Angelino and all of my friends and family when they heard Paul broke into sports. He's working at Staples Center. Don't even get me started how it's called Crypto.com Arena now. That's a whole different conversation. But when it was Staples Center, like, dude, that's awesome. Dude, what's it like to rub elbows with Kobe and Shaq? And so the ticket requests and the autograph requests, they keep coming in and you're ducking, you're dodging. And then eventually you reveal the truth and you're like, yeah, about that. I don't quite work for the Lakers. I work for the Clippers, the other team known as the redheaded stepchild of the building. Okay. I was at that point in my career an entry-level sales guy. James, a year before I started, ESPN called us the worst brand in sports. And then my second week on the job, the front cover of Sports Illustrated said, worst franchise in sports history. There's 3 Clipper fans with paper bags over their head with a message written on their foreheads. One of them said, just shoot me. And that was my second week on the job. And so you're selling against the Lakers. You're selling the unsellable. And the happy ending to this story, a couple years after when I became the sales manager, was we went from 28th in league revenue, sales revenue out of 30 teams. And within a year, we landed in number 2 out of 30, selling the same product on the court. And the number one thing that we did after some positive turn, we shed the victims, we shed the victim mindset, the woe is me. If the negative and toxic fan infused your mindset or your attitude or your hope or your belief or your energy or your optimism, you were out. We flipped the page and we restocked with people that believed in the future with all those things I just mentioned. Here was our mantra. Let me give you a fun fact before the mantra. There's 82 games in basketball. James, these are the best players in the world. If you roll a ball out on the court, they will accidentally win 20-something or 30-something games. Accidentally. They're so good. If they're average, they're going to win 40-something games. If they're good, they're going to win 50-something games. If they're great, they can win over 60. Well, the Clippers won 17. 17 out of 82. James, it is impossible, but they somehow figured it out, okay? They figured it out. So here we are selling the unsellable after a 17-win season, and we go from 28th out of 30 in revenue to number 2 out of 30 around a single mantra. The losses are not our fault, but we can make them our responsibility. The losses are not our fault. Again, we're on the business side, but we can make the next day our responsibility, our mindset, our mood, our energy, our attitude, our effort. And that applies to everybody listening in. When you've had a bad day, it probably is due to something that is not your fault. What somebody said, how they made you feel, a client went the other direction, whatever it is. a rough conversation with spouse, like something that made it a bad day, but you can own the next day. You can own your mindset, your mood, your energy, your attitude, your effort. And yeah, my Clippers example is a business example, but the life relevance is an 11 out of 10.
So
you
good.
always own the next day. You want to win the next day after a loss. You study your losses. You grow from your losses. That's ultimately what it is. Like adversity doesn't discriminate. Like welcome to the club. Like I might have a bad day tomorrow. Great. I'm not going to have one in 2 days.
I love that idea of just taking as much responsibility as you can, because the more empowered you are to be able to create the circumstances that you want.
Yeah.
It's so good. Our last question now before the rocket round, and I think this is the fastest in terms of time going, the fastest one we've ever done. I didn't look at my iPad once, and that is just wild. That's never actually happened before. So it's been a
Is that a good thing or bad thing? I don't know.
It means that I've got about 1,000 questions left to ask, so we'll have to get you back on for round two.
I'd love to.
Last question before the rocket round. On your best day, what's an affirmation that you would write on a flashcard that you could show yourself on your worst day?
Ooh. Why isn't this in the rocket round? Come on, James. I mean, this is a tough one. What would I write on my best day that I could show on my worst day? I'll give you a good one. Own your weather system. Own your weather system. When we walk in a room or we hop on a Zoom meeting or whatever we do, we either warm it up or we cool it off. The question is, are we aware of our own temperature? And on your best days, it's probably because you warmed up a room. You warmed up a relationship. You had that meeting that changed things in a positive way. You won the client because of the way you showed up. When you are warm, it makes the people around you warm. It invites warmth. It attracts warmth. And eventually, your results become warmer. Your future becomes warmer. And I can almost guarantee, especially if you have an ownership mindset, like what I just talked about, on your bad days, on your worst days, if you can hold yourself accountable versus just pointing the finger, maybe you didn't warm the room up. Maybe you didn't warm the relationship up. So I would want to remind myself, because again, a bad day is probably environmental or circumstantial. And maybe somebody else, there's change, there's uncertainty, there's something somebody said or did that I didn't like or appreciate, or a result went the opposite direction. Okay, so what do I control about this? What do I own about this? And there's nothing more important than my weather system. I can make the choice on warming up tomorrow. And that's advice for good days and bad days, all in the same.
I'm quite sure that's the best answer we've had to that question on the show. So
thank you.
Bravo, my friend.
All right.
Brilliant answer. Well, let's now move into the Win the Day Rocket Round. 10 questions for some quick answers. You up for this one, Paul?
Do I have a choice?
No,
Let's
you
go.
do not.
Let's go.
You're here, chained to the chair. Number one, what quote inspires you the most?
Commitment begins when motivation ends.
So good. Number two, morning coffee or evening wine?
Both. Seasonal. Crazy guy like me, 3 or 4 a.m. in present times, writing a book. Maybe I will choose the coffee and avoid the wine because no fog in the morning. But believe you me, I am a work hard, play hard guy. I am not shy of either. I will attack that morning coffee, and left to my own druthers, I always say to my clients before the speech, I'm like, you want me at the reception after the speech, not the reception the night before the speech. So anyways, I'm just maximizing life, enjoying them. So the answer is both, but they are seasonal.
Yeah, love it. Number three, what's one bit of advice you would give your 18-year-old self?
Follow people, not places. At 18, you're probably thinking, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? In business terms, what ladder am I going to climb? What industry am I going to work in? And those are good questions. I think the better question is, who am I going to work for? Who am I going to work with? The people at your work will make or break the entire experience. They will determine whether you're happy and fulfilled or whether you're miserable on the drive home. It's the people. It's not the industry, and it's not your roles and responsibilities. It's the people.
Mm. Number four, what book do you gift the most, or what book contributed most to the mindset you have today?
Essentialism, because I got sick of going squirrel. Yeah, chasing too many shiny squirrels. I struggle. I suck at saying no. I like to say yes. I like to give. I like to help. I like to support. I like to serve. I like to contribute. They're all good things. But when you do it too much, they're very dangerous.
Yeah.
They're very dangerous. And before you know it, if I'm a person driven by impact, if I say yes to 10 things, I don't even know if I'm saying yes to the right 10 things. And now I can't say yes to future things. It's a pitfall. And so essentialism is what 2 books have had a transformative effect on my life in different ways. Think and Grow Rich was my earlier to mid-career book that got me to just think about life and my future in a very different way. And I've read it twice, and both times, it's like my life and business took off the moment that I closed the last page. It's weird, it's crazy, it's serendipity, but like Think and Grow Rich has been a needle mover, and I will read it a third time if I ever feel like I need it. Essentialism, though, is I have not chased shiny squirrels since I read that book, and everything in terms of results and goals and outcomes has exponentially increased. And more importantly, I just feel like a more focused, better person. I don't suffer from distractions anymore. I'm able to lock in a way. It's like a superpower.
Tim Story said to me once, just because it's on your path doesn't mean it is your path.
Ooh.
Isn't that good? I'm exactly the same.
And he's a good dude. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
For sure. Number 5, was there a vulnerability you once hid within that became your superpower?
Yeah. Authenticity is one of my 5 core values. I figured that out when I was C-suite at the 49ers. We all go off-site, do some inner work, master your inner game, your why, your values. And I got obsessed, and I started to think about, how do I apply this to daily decisions and actions? And your values are 2 things. Number 1, they're what get you out of bed. And ideally, they're what drive your behavior. And number 2, when you violate them, when you do the opposite, it pisses you off. And so when I found myself with a authenticity gap, I had a review when I was at the Niners. My boss was the team president, and he gave me a Roosevelt quote that you've probably heard. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, which basically means my team didn't think I cared about them. And the real crappy thing is, James, my heart did care, but apparently my actions weren't showing it. And in that moment, I realized that I sold out. The reason why I deserved that feedback was I started to want to climb a ladder a little bit too much. I started to taste success a little bit too much. And I hurt some people without knowing, without being aware of it along the way. And I was showing up as 2 different versions of me, a work Paul and a personal Paul. And when I dusted myself off after that review and made a permanent shift and permanent transformation into one Paul, the authentic Paul, because my core value is authenticity. So why have values if you're not going to become your values? You are your values. Now show it. And I wasn't showing it consistently enough. So long-winded answer. I know this, I just broke all the rules of the rocket round. But it's something I had to unpack because, I mean, that's the reality.
It requires so much less energy as well, doesn't it, when you do that? Yeah. I've even had that with business things where, like, I've enjoyed it. Yeah, like you said, like versus love, where I've been like, yeah, this is fun, but it's not like the hill that I would die on. And it just makes everything so much harder.
Amen.
Number 7, if you could sit on a park bench and have a conversation with someone alive or dead, who would it be?
Michael Jordan. Hey, it was talk about an icon. Like, I mean, I look up to his basketball self so much. I just want to talk to him about how he became so great. And I know that there are some nuggets that the public doesn't know. And I just want to know how he became such a winner.
Do you put Tom Brady as his peer?
Equally as great in his own sport. I think the difference is Jordan never lost a championship. You know, like when you go 6 for 6.
I didn't realize that. Is that what he was? 6 for 6?
6 for 6.
Yeah.
The only reason he won 6 out of 8 is because he played baseball for 2 years in between, and then realized, like, I better go back to my my thing, the thing in the world that I'm kind of the best in the world at. You know, like maybe I go give that another shot. So yeah, 6 out of 6. But yes, of course, in a fair statement, I mean, Tom's another GOAT, greatest of all time. Sports analogy number 87. Now, there we go. There we go.
I see their matching intensity, which I love about the both of them. Number 8, what tool or resource best helps you run your life or your business?
It's the journal I said earlier. It's that daily. What are you going to journal the night before to set yourself up, ideally for the morning, so you can own the morning and say, even before other people wake up, it's already been a winning day.
Number 9, share one thing on your bucket list.
Have a second place in Italy. Like, LA is home and we love it and our people are here. So we're never, ever leaving. But we're not going to move from LA to Italy, but that is our happy place. So to know that there can be a part of the year that we call that home, that would be a dream come true. It's on our vision board, and it's going to happen.
We'll film the next episode at your villa.
Done.
Yeah.
Done. Come on.
Sounds great. And last question, number 10. What's one thing you do to win the day?
Instead of just telling you about the journal, here's what I do. I do an end of day audit. 3 things. EIR. Here's an acronym. Experience, information, relationships. What experience did I gain today? What information did I learn today? What relationship did I build or enhance today? I do that end of day audit. And if I can answer positively on most days for most of those things, it's a winning life.
Love it. Great way to finish. Well, there are a bunch of ways to connect with Paul. We'll link to all of these in the show notes. You can follow him on Instagram at Paul Epstein Speaks. Visit his website, paulepsteinspeaks.com. Grab a copy of his books on Amazon. Again, all that and more will be linked in the show notes. Mate, thanks so much for coming on the show. You absolutely crushed it. This has been so good.
Loved it.
Thanks for joining me on another episode of the Win the Day podcast. We want to hear your thoughts on what we covered today, so drop a comment on the YouTube version of this episode with your favorite takeaway, any questions you have, or what actions you'll be taking as a result of what was shared in this episode. And if you found value in the Win the Day podcast, leave a 5-star rating on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You'll find a link to both of those in the show notes. It'll only take you a few seconds, and more ratings really helps other people discover the show so they can get the mindset upgrade they need, and we can bring more winners into the Win the Day movement. That's all for this episode. Get out there and win the day. Until next time, onwards and upwards, always.